welcome back to my channel. It's Spooky Saturday and it's Detroit Alley Cat, so let's get spooky. So every time that we do this, I forget to tell you, or I do tell you, and it's kind of awkward, but please subscribe, like, and ring the bell and do all that stuff because, you know, it's getting kind of boring with just me and my hedgehog doing this. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the curse of Minnie Quay. So actually it's called The Ghost of Minnie Quay from Forrester. So if you were going to go to Forrester, Michigan, I know I do this every single time when I show people in Michigan where it is, but it's in the Thumb region, so right around here. I've never even heard of Forrester, but I guess apparently it's a town here next to Lake Huron. It's north of Port Saniac, and it just has a cemetery and a few buildings left. But what is left is a tavern that has been sitting there for over 150 years. And this tavern was owned by James Quay and Mary Ann Quay, and they had two children, and one of their child's name was Minnie Quay. Mary Ann Quay, the mother of Minnie Quay, lived to be 98 years old. It's kind of sad because when I saw the tombstone, I saw that James Quay, I think he died in his 60s, so a lot of time to live without your husband. But I digress. Let's keep going. They built a tavern there in 1852. And the tavern still remains. I read a couple different names of this tavern. I don't know which one is the true name. All I know is it's still standing there. One said that the tavern was abandoned, and the other one said that it was a residence that people were living in. But it's kind of interesting because as the story goes throughout the years, it actually ended up being, it was a tavern, and then it became something called a blind pig. I didn't know what a blind pig was. A blind pig is a speakeasy, and then it became a house of prostitution. It actually said that, a house of prostitution. I don't know if you can say whorehouse, but it was a house of respute. I don't know, a house of prostitution. And now it's supposedly a residence, or it's sitting there abandoned, one or the other. Maybe I'll have to go up to Forrester to go see. But I do know that it was, I think, called the Tanner Inn. So I don't know for sure. It just was on there that said the Tanner Inn, but it looked like that might, like there's two taverns. There's one across the street that's called the Forrester Inn, and then the Quay Inn was here next across the street. So I don't know if it's now called the Tanner Inn. It's kind of uncertain what exactly has happened. If I was to take a bet, I would say that it's probably being lived in right now as an actual residence. And at one time it was called the Tanner Inn. But across the street is actually called the Forrester Inn. So if you ever go to Forrester, there is, and you find the Forrester Inn across the street, that is the actual house that the Quays lived in, and Minnie Quay lived in. James and Mary Ann, they had a daughter. Her name was Minnie Quay. At 15 years old, she fell in love with a sailor. And I guess back in the day, sailors were like not somebody that you should fall in love with. The saying was that good girls don't fall in love with sailors. I don't know why. I think that's kind of weird, but maybe that was like something that happened in 1850s. So fun fact is that my grandfather actually was a sailor. His name was Red, and he has passed away many years ago. And another interesting fact is that my husband's grandfather was a sailor too. His name was Chet. They were both in the Navy. So the story is that Mary Ann was really in love with this guy, and he felt the same way back. Like he really cared about her back. But her parents did not like him, and They actually found out because all the townspeople were talking about them. And so the townspeople got to them and basically told them, like, hey, look, your daughter, who was 15 at the time, was talking to this guy. And they were like, no, you're not allowed to talk to this guy. And the story goes that Mary Ann's mother hated him so much that she said she would rather see him with a dead guy, which is kind of interesting because of what happened. So the day that he came to see, like he came there because he was a sailor, and the house Forrester is on the coast. So he was waiting to say goodbye to her because he was going to leave to do what sailors do, which is sail. Her parents would not let her out of the house. Like, the story was that they boarded up the house and they locked the doors, and she wasn't allowed to leave. And she was really upset about it, and he waited for her and he waited for her, and then he left because he had to go. And I guess she was really upset because she couldn't say goodbye or I love you or, you know, any of those things you do when the person you love leaves for a while. Basically she was waiting for him to come back to town, and word got back that he had been in a crash in the Great Lakes. So she found out that he died, and she was very, very upset. And her parents told her, like, hey, can you watch your brother? She had an infant brother at the time, and she said, sure. And the story goes that she was wearing all white, and the townspeople saw her walking with her brother, and they were waving to her, and she was waving back. And she went all the way to the pier of Forrester, and I guess she left her little brother there, and she jumped off the pier and killed herself, all because she wanted to be with him for the rest of her life. Which is interesting that her mother said that she would rather see her with a dead man than a sailor, because then she ended up being with a dead man. So, Forrester, I read up about Forrester, and it has about 40 people that live there full time all year round. As many people know that live in Michigan, it gets really cold here, and the higher you go, the colder it gets. So it's not very populated town, but I guess during the summer, they have a lot of people that go camping, and they have a lot of ghost hunters that go there to see Minnie May. And the story is that sometimes you can go to the beach, and many people say you can see her walking down the beach, or you can hear the moans of her sorrow because she can't find her loved one. And then there is another story that I found very interesting, is that she is seen in the water and she beckons young girls to come to her. And actually, something that happened was a girl had gone to the beach of Forrester and she had seen her, or at least she said she had seen her. And she went back to her friend and said, hey, I saw her. And the story goes that the next day or the day after, she was found in Lake Huron floating, and she was dead. And they couldn't determine what happened. I guess it was ruled a suicide, but nobody said that she seemed like she was really going to commit suicide or look sad or anything. The only thing that was really remarkable about that is that she had said that she's seen Minnie May and that she was beckoning her out to come into the water, and then she was found dead. So that's the thing, is that they say that they see this teenage girl in the water and she's beckoning her, which is pretty spooky, to be honest. So a lot of people come to Forrester for that reason, to check it out, to see if they can find Minnie May. So the tavern was called back in the day the Old Quay Tavern, and it still remains across the street from the Forrester. But I could be wrong. Like I said, I just read this in a couple sources. I just know that it's across the street from the Forrester Inn. And something else that I found that I thought was really interesting is that there is like this old song or ballad made about Minnie May. So I really want to read it to you. Wait. 'Twas long ago besides Lake Huron, she walked the sandy shore, where the voice of one sweet Minnie May 'twill echo evermore. Sailors still hear her crying, young lovers hear her too, as she calls for them to join her in the icy waters icy blue. Young Minnie loved the sailor loved her too, and on the shore behind the trees the pair would rendezvous. But gossip soon got wind of it, and tongues began to wag. The tale was told to Minnie's mom by some old babbling hag. Minnie's ma was angry, and to her daughter said, "Married to a sailor, I'd rather see you dead." They knew that she'd been sneaking out to see the lad at night. They boarded up her bedroom door and kept her locked up tight. He waited for his love in vain, a tear was in his eye, when he set sail the next morning without kissing her goodbye. He never saw his love again, for alas a storm arose. The raging gale sank many ships, and his was one of those. The ship that carried Minnie's love sank like it was lead, and when the news reached Forrester, they said that he was dead. Minnie wore a dress of white, she looked just like a bride. She plunged into the water deep, to die there by his side. But Minnie May is not at rest, or so people say. Her ghost still walks the lonely shore. Some people see her to this day. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed my spooky Saturday, which I hope doesn't get out until spooky Sunday. I really enjoyed reading about Minnie May, and I thought it was a really romantic story, kinda. The story of Minnie May is about lost love and abandoned love, so at least that's what the town folklore is. I hope you have an amazing Saturday, Sunday, whenever you watch this, and I can't wait to see you again. Bye!